Olá, bem-vindos ao terceiro episódio do Nuvem Talks. Eu sou Maria Marmude, arquiteta, designer de interiores e fundadora da Nuvem Design. Aqui discutimos como a AI está transformando os fluxos de trabalho, ampliando a criatividade e redefinindo a forma como projetamos. A cada episódio, conversas inspiradoras com especialistas da área criativa que estão moldando o futuro do design. Hoje eu tenho o prazer de apresentar a terceira convidada do Nuvem Talks, Jennifer Durand. Essa entrevista será gravada em inglês com legendas em português e espanhol. Jennifer Durand is part of the Computation and Design Research Group at Zaha Hadid Architects, where she has been working since 2022. She's a certified architect in Peru, holding a master's degree in architectural management and design from IE University in Madrid, and a bachelor's degree in architecture and urbanism from Ricardo Palma University in Lima. Before joining Zaha Hadid, Jennifer led her own studios, Olier, focused on Web3 design, and OVA, dedicated to small and medium-scale commercial and housing projects. She currently teaches as a technical instructor for Unreal Engine at the Bartlett and as a visiting guest tutor at the Thomas Jefferson University, where she leads sessions on the applications of artificial intelligence in architecture. Between 2019 and 2022, she was part of the faculty at Ricardo Palma University, first as an assistant professor and later as main professor, and has conducted various workshops on emerging technologies in design. Her metaverse projects have been published in ArchiDaily, Parametric Architecture, and across Peruvian media, including television and newspapers. She has presented her research and work at international events such as South Summit Madrid, London Design Week, and at the Pub AI Topic organized by the Architect Network. With hands-on experience in artificial intelligence tools and workflows since 2019, her interests lie at the intersection of the metaverse design and AI-driven architecture, focusing on how emerging technologies can reshape creative processes and expand design possibilities. Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Hi, Maria. Good, and you?
I'm very good. Well, welcome you all to the third episode of Nuvem Talks. This episode is a bit different because we're recording it in English for the first time. I would like to tell everyone that I'm super happy to have Jenny with us. Jenny is a good friend, and we're going to talk about this. I'm a big fan of your journey, Jenny, and like since the beginning, since we ever met. And I know that now you're like this architect and technology specialist working in a very important office in this planet. And you're going to give us more details, but I really appreciate that you join us today. And I truly hope that this one is just the first one of many talks that we're going to have here. This is very important for us, Brazilians and Brazilian architects and students, because it's giving us also a perspective of international practices all along. And this is what Nuvem is about. Nuvem is about like learning how to implement AI in design processes in different practices. So thank you very much for being here.
And thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And I always start like the conversation with a warm-up, and it's always about how did we meet?
Yeah,
Do you remember?
I remember, yeah. It was like back in 2018 when we were doing the master at the master in architectural management and design. And it was like a super nice, group of people that we met at that moment. So yeah, we were long back in that time, back in 2018. So
Yes, exactly. It was a very cool experience we had with a very special group of people, 19 nationalities in
yeah.
a sprint of work, 1 year masters, going to Madrid and London. And I remember the London visit was very special because we had the chance to visit like very important architectural firms, including including the
Yeah.
one that we know that you're working at. So I'm gonna start our interview asking you exactly that. What do you do today, Jenny? What is your practice today?
Yeah, so I am a designer, computation and design at Zaha Hadid Architects in the code cluster. The code cluster is the computational design cluster inside Zaha. So we are the ones
Mhm.
applying technology in architecture. We are not only applying like one thing specifically. We work with metaverse, we work with video games, we work with AI for sure, and we also work with digital fabrication and prototypes and a lot of computational design as core base. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now for almost 3 years. I've been working there inside Saha and inside the code.
Wow, that's really impressive. Like considering that you're super young, and I remember back then when we were still in the masters, you were in 2018 already like over the topics of parametric design, AI, and all of
Yeah.
that. And we were like, okay, this girl is like so advanced for us. And it's very cool because like it's not a stereotype, right? Like you come from Peru and you
Yeah,
bring all this interest for technology. You are a girl that is also like sometimes people think that technology is a male
are only
dominated
boys.
environment, and it is, but you're a girl and you're very interested in that, so it's really fascinating, and it makes me feel very proud like to have met you, and also that you're pursuing this such a journey. So we're talking Zaha Hadid. And when we talk about this specific office, of course, like I think that it's a common understanding that it is the most important reference that we have when we talk technology, right? Like if you look at all like the star architects firms in the world right now, like every time you think about technology, it's Zaha. And we are always like very curious about how they implement such techniques and such technologies in the office. Of course, you have like restrictions on what you can say and what you
Yeah.
can't. We understand that. But I think that since we started like working with AI, what is very interesting is that it's a very complex word in the sense that um, when you're working with technology, there's a lot of ways of implementing it. And like although you just said like you're working in this very specific and special office that is super connected to technology, I know that you started your practice and you're
Yeah,
studying the
my
subject
journey
like
before.
way before, way before. And actually, that's the reason why it led you to such a specific firm. So, can you tell us like a little bit about how how did it start? How did you start to work with AI?
Sure, yeah. I started my journey with AI back in 2019. It was like a time when I discovered the word AI, but that word, I mean, artificial intelligence can have so many applications and so many meanings for different people. And for me, at that moment specifically, I wanted to know if, because I was like very influenced about thinking what happened if the AI can actually replace me as a designer, and what happened if it happens. And that was my main concern at that moment, and that's when I jump inside, like learning about AI, because I have that concern that I think a lot of people have now. At that moment, AI was not as visual, at least as visually amazing as it is right now. it was just more like more things like scripting, everything that is behind the scenes. It's not like a lot of visual outcomes that were super nice as we have now. But at that moment, I entered, I remember, because of a digital futures workshop they were doing, and they always do a lot of workshops, and they are free workshops. So I took one about AI, and I just start like learning based on that. And one thing about the workshops and these all the workshops that I took is that I always create community and talk with different people. I was in Peru back in that time, so for me, talking with people that were starting the journey in different parts of the world was crucial, because inside Peru, I cannot talk with a lot of people. I mean, we were like less than 10 people that we talk about the same probably technology topics in Peru with my other architect friends. But doing these workshops, I can actually reach the world. So I think that, yeah, I started in this moment, and then I started using like StyleGAN, CycleGAN, ResNet 50, like those AI algorithms, Pix to Pix, and BQ1 plus Clip. BQ1 plus Clip is actually one of the predecessors of Midjourney, DALI, and all of these that we have now. But it was what it was doing at the moment. The output was not super high quality, was like very blurry outputs. But for me to see an output from a text prompt was like, oh, the computer can do it. And it didn't do it like super nice. But for me, I was amazed already that the computer has able to generate something. And it was like, I remember like learning how to do text prompting at that moment, because I was like writing a text and then understanding that the computer cannot, I mean, it doesn't speak my same language. So I need to try to start thinking how I can talk to the computer and say some words or put like parentheses or things that actually help the computer understand. That then when I jump to Midjourney, when Midjourney appears for me, was like, okay, it's actually more like easy because it has a better language model and all of that. But it started back in 2019. And other thing that I was using was that I was thinking, if AI is faster than I can do stuff, because the speed is crazy, then probably I can use AI as a tool to enhance my architectural process, my workflow. So if I want to tag something, because we always need to tag like, okay, in the floor plan, this is going to be bedroom, this is going to be bathroom, and all of these things that are very manual process. But what happens if I can do that, but with the AI? That's when I started like using Rhino and Grasshopper. It was Rhino, Grasshopper, and Lunchbox ML. That was a plugin inside Grasshopper, and I was using it to train if the computer can actually be trained based on like if I have like a room and the room is like 4 by 3 meters, and this is like the secondary room, but the master bedroom is 4 by 4. Then if I draw a plan with those specific measurements, can the computer recognize that is a master bedroom or is like a secondary room? The computer actually can be trained for that. And when I realized that it can do it faster, because for sure I can do the tagging, but I will be like doing it like more slow, and that the computer can do it almost automatically, then I was like, okay, AI can also help me to enhance some things that are the boring part that I don't want to do, but I know how to do because the expertise like came from us as architects. So yeah, those are like the testings that I was doing in the very beginning, and that is how I started the journey inside AI. And from that moment, back in 2019 to now 2025, it's only been like 6 years, but the jump in different AIs, different workflows, is a complete change, and it's totally
It's
crazy for
amazing.
me. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
amazing. It's going so fast that sometimes it's like,
Mhm.
okay, something that I can say right now, and we were talking about that last time. Something that I can say right now is that maybe it's going to be like tomorrow, it's going to be totally a different thing.
Different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it changed too fast. So what I'm saying is like it's stuff that happened from the past, but things can get obsolete very quickly
Mhm.
because that's how technology is advancing.
I like very much that you say that you started like doing the workshops with Digital Future, because I didn't know this platform until the beginning of this year, when I had the chance to see a workshop and actually a lecture with Mio Leach in Florida, in Miami. And I
Oh
was
no.
fascinated by his lecture. His speech is so energizing to see him talking about AI,
Yeah.
right? Like, and sharing like such an amazing ideas about how to see it. And that's only then I came to know what is digital futures,
And by coincidence, talking about digital and parametric architecture, I did a workshop with AA here in Brazil, the AA Visiting School. I think you're familiar with this program, the Architectural Association
The Architectural
Visiting
Association
School.
Visiting School.
And like very recently, there was a digital futures lecture with the tutors of this AA that I participated. So it was like mixing the words, right? Because in the end of the day, like when it comes to technology, people, if you put yourself in the situation of doing these kinds of workshops, and you start like being part of a community, right? And this is super awesome because then people meet each other and they can learn from each other. This is something that we do also here in Brazil in a very small scale with interior design in my case, but I think it's very, very interesting. And just this weekend, I was doing also like a workshop with Mariana Cabugueira, right? So she was your teacher as well.
And she was also my teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at least for me, the community that you, meet in these workshops, for me, have been crucial in my entire architecture experience and expertise, because some people that I met back in 2018, 2019, when I was entering into these workshops, 2020 during the pandemic times, they are now in London, also here, because we were all like searching this technological hub, and London is one of those hubs. So at the end, we all arrived London, and it's crazy because now some of them work like also in the same company as I'm working. I mean, they also it's Zaha, and when people ask how do you met, and we were like virtually during a workshop, and it's amazing. But it's like it's always like a different people, and now I know that I have friends like all around that I met during those moments, and I still talk a lot with them because it's like technology applied in architecture. I think it's a very specific niche inside architecture, so it's not like every architect is probably interested in that, because we have like architecture is so big, but the ones that we are interested is good to be like connected. So yeah, I think that that's why digital actually helps a lot.
That's very interesting. And what led me to do the workshop, Mariana's workshop, was, well, it's a very recently I came to know about her project, like her Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
airport project, right? And I was reading about it, and it was the first time that I saw someone explaining exactly what was the process that she used to blend, like to create this hybrid workflow where you have the implementation of the ideation with AI, then like a human design development phase, and then
Yeah.
like the post production with AI. So she was like, for the first time, I saw someone actually like really describing the process. And I'm very interested in processes, right? Because of course when we started, like you started way before me, like I had like some knowledge about like parametric design, as I told you, because of this workshop I did with AA. But when I started with AI in 2013. Then I started like really posting some images on 2014, and in this very short period of time, we saw a lot of changes. So one thing that I said like before in the other episodes is that on the beginning we were so fascinated with the images. It was all about images and how can you do that, and it's so fast and like it's so realistic. But in the end of the day, we started realizing that there was some sort of disconnection between what you create and real architecture, right? So it was the first friction, right? Because when you're seeing and you're not understanding, for example, like images made with Midjourney, you think, oh wow, it's a 3D, right? Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
parts of the same house, but it's not. It's like totally separated in
Separated.
separate images. So you have to create the illusion of continuity with individual images because there's no 3D involved. And then when I realized that by myself, like training, like self-training, of course, after I did some projects, and I was like, but this is so weird. Like this doesn't make sense. I started understanding that if I wanted to create a storytelling, even with my projects, my interior design projects in my niche, I had to understand or create a process, right? Because if not, you can't do much with it, right? Like, it's awesome, very nice images, but you can't connect it to the real world, right?
Yeah, that's the critical point, I think, how to connect it. And I can explain how it works for me, but it's like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have different workflows that have been changing and evolving based on what happens with technology, and because it's always changing and the process is always evolving. But the one that I'm using right now, and this is, I will say, 2025, because this can change tomorrow. But what I use right now is that I use AI like as part of my process in the very beginning. That is the conceptual stage. In the very beginning, before AI, I will make a comparison. Before AI, in the very beginning, when you are looking for references, I remember I used to look a lot as daily, the scene, Pinterest boards. So when, because before in Peru I have my own clients, so I always was trying to like make references so they can see like color palettes and stuff like that, to imagine what can happen, and to see if they like, I don't know, more wood, or if they like more like in metal tones, so different things to understand them. And what happened now with AI is that I don't do that like this anymore. What I do in the conceptual stage is to brainstorm a lot, but with AI. So it's like, okay, I have this very crazy idea that, I mean, we do very crazy buildings, but it's always that we always have a very crazy idea. And then you just type the very crazy idea and see how it looks. There was a point at the very beginning of this workflow, because this workflow have been changing in these past years, that we used to see the image and say like, okay, we need to model it to see how it will look if we actually add measures and stuff. And we model it, and when you model it, everything that looks like a fairy tale just doesn't work. It's not a fairy tale. You cannot fit any furniture. You cannot fit the person. The scale is not right. Everything just starts falling apart when you start modeling it. And it's like, okay, so then that was not the process. That was the first process. It was like, okay, it was a fake process. Didn't work as expected. What happened after that is that for sure we have it as a concept. You have it as mood boards. We have it like, okay, maybe like this atmosphere can go better, this color palette can go better, or like we can do something like this, but as inspiration, not as taking it literal, because we are not going to use it literal, because it's still not at that point. It doesn't understand scale. It doesn't understand the depth itself in the image. The image can be like super small when you model it based on the person, and then you actually need something more big. And yeah, for now, that part at least I use a lot Mid Journey, but as inspiration point in my design workflow. After that, after the inspiration, for sure, I mean, then we have like the architects, we have the expertise to create things based on something that can inspire us, and we can get inspired by so many things. And using that as inspiration is for me working very well. After that, in the technical part that we always do, that is at some point for me was the part that I want to automatize, because some of the things are like repetitive tasks that actually we need to do it. I mean, it's part of our process, but you can actually automatize it. And right now, what I use in that specific part is ChatGPT a lot, because I mean, I really use ChatGPT every day, because if you know how to do scripting, ChatGPT can also script. And I asked ChatGPT, okay, I want to do this script very fast, and I need this as parameters. And then ChatGPT gives you a script, you can review the script, and then I use the script instead of me scripting the same thing, I mean, from scratch. And that for me enhance the process, because it's going to be a speed. I mean, my speed as a human, I have a speed like it's a normal speed probably, but the computer has a more fast one, because it can, I mean, it's a computer. I cannot, I mean, I can try to go against it, but in velocity the computer will win me. And instead of like saying, oh yeah, the computer would replace me, it's like, okay, I will use what the computer can do better. It can automatize the process, it can do stuff faster. And we also, I mean, I use it a lot also to write when we need to write reports. We need to write reports all the time. And for sure, I need to write the report, the base report, but the majority of the times before ChatGPT and before of these AIs, we need to actually write the report and see if everything was being coherent, if it is actually talking about the concept or whatever we are going to showcase in the project. But now every idea that I need to brainstorm, I'm brainstorming with the AI. And then at the end, I have actually something that is more coherent for like when we're trying to explain a concept. Because when we're trying to explain a concept of architecture, maybe the concept, I don't know, imagine that is like the dunes in the desert. So how do you explain that like poetically, but at the same time technically? And you have a lot of ideas for sure, because we always have a lot of ideas, but trying to bring those ideas down to earth and actually use them when we're writing a report, when we're doing these little things, actually help a lot, because that before was actually time consuming and now it's actually faster. And it's something that is okay, that's the other part of the design process. And then we continue technical stuff, and then we have like the final renders that we need to have for a project. Right now with the final renders depends on the type of project, but what we can do and what we were always trying to achieve since the beginning was how to use the AI. But I mean, the AI can create beautiful images, but as I was saying, it's not referring to measurements or something that we want. But what we use a lot is like Config UI with stable diffusion, because we have control net, and control net can actually I mean, it will take a photograph that you have, well, not a photograph, like a render or something that you have, like a Rhino screenshot, but the Rhino screenshot already have your measurements, already have like if you are doing like an areas geometry, like I don't know, 5 by 5, and then you need to have a tower with this amount of floors already with the dimensions in Rhino, then it can actually go through stable diffusion, and stable diffusion will recognize those areas even if it's like very basic geometry. It can be like a primitive geometry, like extrusion of a box, and it can work with that. And it can also recognize depth maps. It can recognize materials if you use segmentation maps. And based on all of that, it can actually give you an outcome that is a usable outcome, because it's like part of it was you making the 3D based on some measurements, some things that we know as architects because it's our expertise and because we are understanding the brief of the project. And the other part, the automatic part for us to apply facades, to apply LoRa's, to apply like different things inside this picture and different atmospheres, it can be done with Config UI. And for me, it works a lot. We're using it a lot. And then after that, we're not like even finished, because after that we have the post production of that image. And for the
Of
post
course.
production, sure, for the post production, what changed a lot the game was like Photoshop, when it actually adds AI inside Photoshop. And now we have that. That was like the tool is amazing for me. I mean, for myself, when I was like studying architecture, I could never imagine that that could happen. I mean, inside Photoshop, that you can do things so fast. And just like, because for sure after the AI process, we still need to clean things, because I mean, we're very perfectionist probably, but they still need to clean some things that we don't like, and we can do that inside Photoshop. And the other thing that we do is that we pass it, at least in my case, I use a lot Sora. That Sora is also from OpenAI, and Sora can generate videos. So it can generate videos based on images. And with Sora, we can have like different, I mean, you can have like a storyboard with different images, and you can write text prompts, and then we can have little videos. So we can have that also. Or can also, the other thing that Sora can do is that it can actually give you like a change in atmosphere and things inside the image. If you put an image, it can actually change entirely the image. So at the end, it's like a back and forth in between different AIs. And also for this part, that is post-production, I'm using also Midjourney, but the Midjourney editor, because in the editor we can use mask. So we can mask things, we can change things inside Midjourney with Midjourney quality after the order process that you control some things, but some aspects, maybe like vegetation and people and all of these things, Midjourney is still very good at that. So it's a blend in between different softwares. It's not like it's one software in the entire workflow. At the end, it's like in my personal expertise, it's like it's a mix, and it's always going to be a mix between different workflows. And the workflow continue evolving, because at least in Stable Diffusion with Config UI is an open source platform. So it's also like it's a program that is node based, similar to Grasshopper. So I'm very familiar to that, and for me it's very easy to just jump in between. And then it's just like continue evolving, and we continue like upgrading the workflow. And I'm always researching about that, because there is always something new happening. So yeah, that's the workflow right now. That's like the very beginning, the central part where I automatize the process with different things with ChatGPT, and at the end with all of the post-production things.
now that you explained like all your workflow, it got me curious, like on the very first beginning when you said, okay, I do the ideation on Midjourney, which we all know like it's a very, very good cool tool for creative process, or this first spark of creativity and ideas. But then you said like I use ChatGPT for scripting. And can you explain a little bit more for people that are not used to do scripting? I think it's important for the audience to understand that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I said at the very beginning, it's inspiration, but after that, after you get inspired, you need to actually produce something in 3D. That part is me, like modeling in 3D something, because that part, I mean, there is already AIs that can do 3D models, but the geometry topology is not there yet. So it's not a clean geometry. It's going to be like super triangular geometry. So it's not there yet. So I don't use it in my workflow, but there is already AIs doing that. But that part for me is manual because it's me doing something. But then imagine that you have, I mean, you have a facade. And in my case, in the facade, I need to put like the facade will need to have a fade attractor. So it's going to have like a smaller, well, not smaller, like less louvers in the left and more louvers in the right because of the sun. But that is something that we know because we're the architects of the project. We know about the sun. We know about the project itself. And I can do that as a script in Grasshopper because I use Grasshopper a lot. So it can be a script. But inside Grasshopper, I can actually make scripts based on Python because you can make like a Python node there, and you can have like a scripting. You can just script um, a Python script. So if I want to do that, I mean, I can do it. I can start scripting it because I know how to do it. But when I'm scripting, I know that I'm not as fast as a computer because the language of the computer is scripting. I mean, they know all these languages because it's how the computers talk and how they understand. So if I tell the computer, ChatGPT, can you script something for this and this, giving the parameters and giving everything that I need very specifically, it can actually give us output a script. So I don't need to do like a super long script inside Grasshopper. I just need to like plug things. I mean, if A is going to be like the left part of the geometry, if B is going to be the right part of the geometry, and what are going to be A and B, and then the computer is going to I just need to plug A and B, and then my script generate by ChatGPT, and then the outcome is going to appear in my Rhino view. So it's actually like that's the process, and that process I can make it. I mean, as a human, I can make the process, but I will be slower than the computer for sure. And when the computer can do it, when we are testing things, imagine in the facade, we are not only like using louvers. Maybe louvers is the first option, but maybe we can also want to test hexagonal facade. Maybe we also want to test like, okay, a triangular facade, like different types of facade in the same facade. And we can do it in Grasshopper. We will do it in Grasshopper, but the iterations in Grasshopper, me without enhancing my abilities with the ChatGPT, I will do it slower probably, but with the ChatGPT, I can do it faster. And that fast part is that
That's
for me is
fantastic.
actually like it changed a lot because it enhances you. It's things that you know that you can actually review because for sure ChatGPT can give you an outcome of something, but you need to review if actually the script is actually working or is not going to work. And if you see that something is out and Rhino Grasshopper will not read it, then you need to talk again to ChatGPT like, no, change this, change that, or change it manually because it's like
Mhm.
this back and forth. But yeah, it can do it and it actually enhance a lot the process. Not for everything because it's still, I mean, there are a lot of things that we need to do ourselves. But for some things that are more basic and that we don't have the time for start like scripting manually, in my case, it's like I can say to
Mhm.
ChatGPT do this and it does it. Then I just copy the script and then I just put it inside Grasshopper and then it just like continue the workflow. So it actually for me like free time for the architects to be more like in the creative part, the technical part that is like more architecture focused. There are some things that can be done and automatized, and I think that that's why I'm using AI for that because it's saving me time.
Mhm. Fantastic. So if you could like describe shortly your environment of tools, for example, you start with Midjourney, then you were talking about like using ChatGPT to do the scripts for Grasshopper and Python. connected to Rhino. Is that correct?
Connected to Rhino. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean,
yeah.
Python inside Grasshopper is connected to Rhino. So at the
To
end, whatever
Rhino,
is,
where you're
yeah,
modeling. Mhm.
when you can see it. So whatever you're asking ChatGPT can actually be geometry, and you can actually see it in Rhino because Rhino is I mean, in this case, we're seeing it everything. The geometry is inside Rhino, and
In
then we
Rhino.
bake
And
it.
yeah,
Mhm.
when you're satisfied with the model in Rhino, what do you
Yeah.
do next?
Yeah, when we want to render it, because we already, I mean, it was back and forth because this phase that right now I'm saying super fast actually is a process that sometimes take weeks, that we are doing things very fast and trying to like have a final design to choose because we are like a team and different people are trying to do different designs to at the end we choose one. If we choose the one that we choose at the end is the one where we need to render. And when we're doing competitions, we don't have a lot of time. So we need to render very fast. Everything needs to be very fast. So in this part is when we start like putting all the things inside Rhino as colors because you can change the layer color. And there are specific colors that Comfy UI can recognize. And I mean, a building, I think, is like a salmon pink color. I mean, glass is like a cyan. It's not cyan color. It's more like a light blue, like the sea is like blue, the sky needs to be like blue also, the paths are like a yellowish. So at the end we start putting the colors in the layers in Rhino, and then you can actually take a screenshot, a Rhino screenshot, and the Rhino screenshot is the input for the AI. And in Rhino also, this is like a command in Rhino, is the C buffer inside Rhino. It's like show C buffer. And actually that gives you the depth map in Rhino of whatever you're doing. So the real depth map of your project can be also the input for the AI. So we use both. It's a blending between the depth map, the segmentation, and sometimes also the canny. The canny is just like lines, like everything in black and your project just in lines. So then it's like the AI can recognize that, and then we pass it to Comfy. That Comfy is also
Comfy.
working with nodes, and Comfy with ControlNet can actually you can have the control because you will input these images that are screenshots from Rhino with the right
Mm-hmm.
sizes and with everything that we already did in Rhino. So the output would have more sense than the one that we were doing in Midjourney before because it's more control, and
Of
that's when
course.
we render. Yeah, that's how we render it. I mean, we render, and then still after all the renders and all the changes we need to still change more things because we're very perfectionist with some things, and some things even with AI and with all the workflows we need to still clean stuff after that. That's when we enter to Photoshop to clean the
Yeah,
output, and sometimes we
post-production.
just need to change things like specifically like to mask an area. We can do that inside Comfy because it's like an in painting workflow, or we can do that with Midjourney editor. You just mask and
As you
erase
said.
things, and then we just can have the outcome, and the final outcome is that one
We're
after all
gonna
the
need to put some images for everyone to
yeah.
see what you're talking about. But I could understand now better, like the scripting part, because I didn't realize it was like for Grasshopper or Python. But it's very interesting, right? Because then you're really relying on AI for the render, but based on a model that is
Yeah, we
reliable
did. Yeah.
instead of just being like a
Yeah, no, the model is
surreal
our
image.
model. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
because we already tested. I mean, the process of like converting the 2D from AI, I mean, the image to a 3D. I mean, it works if it's like an art exhibition or something for like a sculpture, but if it's going to be an architectural space, it doesn't because it's not. I mean, the AI doesn't recognize the measurements well, so the scale the majority of the times is off, or we only have this part but we don't have the other three parts of at least of a box. So it's like, okay, we have the creativity, we can do it, but at the same time when we are doing architecture, it's not that we see it just like the facade. We need to see three dimensions. When AI can actually do something with three dimensions, it will be crazy. Probably at some point it can do something that is like already a space or something, but right now, because it doesn't, the output is still a 2D image. So yeah, that's why we needed the control. And that's when we start modeling and then controlling it with Comfy UI, and then it just gives you the output. So it's like it's better.
I'm guessing we're gonna get there very soon to get
Yeah.
like an image of about 2D image of a building and like a potential 3D of it. but it's still like we know what are the challenges, right? Because then it's like AI also filling out the gaps and the information that you probably didn't give. And then like again, it's gonna be adjusting.
It's
But
always
like
adjusting. Yeah.
yeah,
But I
it's
think that
always right. Like
the thing with AI is that still the expertise it come from us because we as architects we have the expertise from like doing different projects, different things that are very specific to a project. Every project is unique. So unless we're doing something that is modular and very repetitive, it can have like something very automatized. But some parts are still like the human input inside the architecture process. And for me, I think that that part is more tricky to be replaced because the AI can do things to enhance the process, but not to replace the process. I mean, we still, whenever we're doing a render, the information for doing that render is that actually the AI was trained based on other renders. So because it has already the information that was a human input, it can give you an output, but it was based on that.
yeah, and I think that like it's this information that we feel like that we
Yeah.
give to AI, it's always gonna be like that, right? Like we are creating whatever is gonna
Yeah.
be
It's
given
it,
as an input, and then
Yeah, I think that changed a lot the game because I was actually in a conference last week and they were talking about how ChatGPT actually gets personalized based on your interactions with the ChatGPT. So my ChatGPT and the reactions that it can have probably is different than your ChatGPT and the reactions that it has
definitely,
because yeah, we talk
yeah,
differently to the ChatGPT. And they were saying that there was a moment when it was like Bard AI, that was the Google AI that it became racist as AI, but it was not because the model was racist. It was actually because the people that was interacting with the model were the racist ones. So because of the data that you put in the computer will give you the outcome. So for sure, we need to still curate whatever enters to the AI, but it can go very well or it can go very bad because Bard at the end doesn't exist as Bard anymore. They call it Gemini now, and it changed a lot of things. They have to remove a lot of things because it was interaction with the users. And I don't know, depending on what will happen with ChatGPT. I mean, right now I know that I'm using it like that. Probably my ChatGPT has this. It's like a similar way of how I'm thinking because it's how I'm training it, but I don't know how other people are training it. So let's see in the coming years.
yeah. It's very funny because like in the workshop that I was doing with Mariana, she was saying, yeah, like we can like use this workflow. So start with the ideation in Midjourney and then modeling it in Maya, going back for post-production. But it might be that if you wait a cycle of 6 days, your output would be a lot better than 6 days before, right? Because it's moving so fast.
It's
But
moving so
also I
fast.
like very much to see, like especially on the first part where we were doing ideation, exactly what you said, because they were giving us like some prompts for us to be playing like alongside the workshop. And obviously the outputs that they were getting on Midjourney, for example, were much better than ours, even if we were using the same prompts. But and fascinating, by the way, like the language, right? Like it's a case, right? Like you
Yeah,
have
it's
so
it's
many
a
specific
case.
words to create those
Yeah,
those
and
fluid
now it's
shapes,
actually
right?
like a career, or well, it became like a. I mean, I saw that there is people that are looking for people that can do text prompting, just text prompting, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
actually how to talk to the computer in a way that the computer understands. Not only for, I
understand.
mean, in this case, I mean, we're in architecture, but not only for architecture, but for different other things, because it's how you
Yeah,
interact and talk with the computer that actually matters at the end because it's like I learned English. I'm talking right now in English. I can talk in Spanish because it's my native language. But then in this interaction between computer and human, I also need to learn that language. So that's the other
exactly.
part. That's when the text prompting starts. And right now it's like everybody when it talks to the computer, they are thinking different ways, and it's very crucial and it's very key. So it's for me it's
Yeah,
very interesting because it's for sure there's a lot of psychology behind other things.
of course. And like it's for me, it's like the two things, right? So you have the interaction with like verbally, and by the way, version 7, you can talk with
Yeah,
Midjourney,
you can talk with Midjourney.
which was crazy when I saw the Polish architect demonstrating it. I was like, okay, that's a game changer. It's getting interesting, right? But when he was like showing also in the personalization area,
Yeah,
the mood boards that he had, it's language. It's like a curated library of visual information that
yeah,
feeds Midjourney. And of course, like the output is based on what you're like really feeding the machine. So it's very interesting. It was very interesting to see like the different results from the students with the very same prompt, right? And
yes,
also to see the tool is evolving to the point where we are gonna really be able to create like a unique language, right? Because I think
yeah,
that this is this curation, this is specific curation, not only of visual, but like also the way you communicate with the machine is what is gonna make you unique in this, right? Like in your practice, nobody
yeah,
else
for
is gonna
sure.
be communicating the
The
same
same way,
way,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, one of the things that why we use, I mean, I know about Midjourney, but why we use a lot of stable diffusion at the end of the process and not at the beginning is because at least then, there in stable diffusion, we can use LoRa's that are trained by our information. I mean, I know how to train based on, I mean, imagine that you have 30 images of facades that you developed before, and then you train an AI based on those 30 images. I mean, the majority of the times we train between 300 and 500, but in this case, in this example, it's like imagine that you have 30 images. So then, based on that, the LoRa can apply that to any other project that you have. So it can actually be controlled, and the information that you're feeding the computer is the one that is going to be giving you the final output. So, and in this case, in the stable diffusion, we are the ones that control the information because we can train. I mean, we can train the computer, and you can have different LoRa's, and we are testing that because we're just like, I mean, I know how to train it, and I was training, I don't know, facades, and I did like was a fun experiment that I was doing for my own time. It was like I was doing facades in Midjourney. I think it was Midjourney version 5. It was not even the last version that we have now, but I was having the facades and then just like feeding that AI image to the to Koya, that is the training platform that I was using, and then after that putting that in Stable Diffusion and having outputs based on that. So it like at the end it was like AI give me outputs. I train with AI images and I have an AI output that was related to my Rhino box. So it's crazy that we are at that point right now that actually the information is there for doing all of these things and we can do it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like to enhance everything that we do.
It's fascinating. And even if you're for example, like in my practice, what I'm trying to build now, like individually, is like create a GPT that understands like what is the vision of my company in terms of like not only visually speaking but conceptually speaking, what is that I
Yeah,
want to achieve philosophically with the practice. And this, it becomes like kind of a persona that is like really understanding what is it we are trying to communicate as a company, to translate it into prompts, text prompts, and this becomes images, so
yeah, at
it's
the
also
end.
creating like, because depending on the input, the outputs are very similar. So it's very complicated, and there's a lot of people that are super skeptical towards AI because of that, right? Because you
Yeah,
can do like a whatever prompt and it's gonna give you a
a very nice outcome. Yeah,
relatively good image, right?
yeah,
So how do you intentionally
mhm,
starts building up a type of communication and creating like specific images to get like an output that is really what you try to communicate, or
yeah,
closer to what you try to communicate. And also I think that there's although like we try to control very much, we have like also to rely on the machine, because sometimes it's part of the process. It's it's the machine, it's not us, right?
Yeah, it's part of, it's already like the revolution is already there because there was, I remember when I was in Peru, I started talking about AI when I was teaching at a university in Peru. My students were getting crazy because I was talking about computers and machine. And but at the same time, some of the other teachers that were older than me, they were telling me that I was getting crazy because how I was talking about these things, that would not be the future for sure. I cannot do this or that. At that moment, as I was saying, the outcome was not the visually pleasant outcome. So it was like, oh yeah, Jenny is doing a crazy experiment there. And I remember doing those things back in the time and having a lot of resistance from other teachers, from a lot of people in the university. And I mean, we were teaching. I was teaching architecture. It was like the 5 semester, so it was half in the career, and also the resistance from the students sometimes because some of the students were scared, and other students were like, actually, okay, I want to see what happens with this. And it was interesting for me at the moment. I remember I was like, okay, maybe I'm trying to do a crazy thing. And then at the end, I mean, time passed already since that moment. Some of my students are already colleagues now because they are architects, and they were telling me like since that moment, now they can actually see things with a different perspective because they saw after years that things became like AI was the mainstream word. Everybody wants to be like related to AI because it was like in all around. Everyone was talking about AI, and then at the moment they realize, okay, this can be like their revolution. It's not that is that I what I was saying was like a crazy idea. It was actually coming to stay. And for me, that's the point. If it's already here and we're already relying on it, then it's here to stay. I don't think it can change. I mean, I think it already changed, but I don't think it can change back to how it was before. At least for me, in terms of timing and how much time I actually enhance in my process, is like I can sleep more. So that's good for an architect, and that's
You
for
can sleep
sure.
more. It's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I like very much that you brought the idea of like the school and the students and how like the reactions from teachers, and this connects to the last question that I would like to ask you, that I always ask to the guests here, is what would you say to a professional that is has not started yet, like an architect that has not started yet implementing AI, and even to a student that is still on the university, seeing all this digital revolution happening and facing resistance from the teachers or the institution that is like still not adapting to what is going on? And it's hard as well, to be fair, because it's
it's very
running
hard.
so fast, it's changing
Yeah.
so fast that like the institutions will face like some troubles to adapt so fast as well. But what would you say to these people that are interested in start diving in the AI
In the AI world.
world?
Yeah, the first thing that I would say is you don't need to know everything to get started because I think that at this point and age, the amount of information that we have is overwhelming. So people will say like, no, but that is too much. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know how to program or whatever. And for me, it's like you don't need to know everything to get started. I think that it's a creative tool that can enhance our process as architects. And my advice is to have like a very open mind to start, because you need to start like playing with it, like not like making it like, okay, this with this I'm going to fly to the moon, because it's not like that in the beginning. In the very beginning, you play, you trial and error. It's like a trial and error process. You fail a lot in the very beginning. I do remember that I was testing something and I didn't knew, and at the moment that I was doing the first scripting things, I knew very less Python and I was failing a lot and I was like, what is happening? And it's a trial and error. At the moment that you realize that you are just learning from the mistakes, it actually helps you a lot because you grow a lot. So it's not going to be a straightforward process. I don't think it is. I don't think we go from A to B. I think we go A until Z and then we go to B because it's like that. And I think that the most important thing for me is that you need to be curious and you have to have the willingness to discover. The technical part will come along when you start like discovering things. And I think that one of the questions that you need to make is that, why do I want to use AI? For what? because the for what can actually give you a lot of answers. Because if you tell me, yeah, what I want to do with the AI is, I don't know, I don't like doing slides in PowerPoint, and I need to do slides in PowerPoint. You can do that with ChatGPT actually. And it's like, I don't like to do this. It's like a very boring process. That's one AI. But then there is other AIs if you want to say like, oh yeah, I want to do a conceptual thing, or maybe I did a hand sketch and I want to know how to render it or how it can look like. There is like, I mean, LookX AI does that a lot, and you can use it, and it's for that specifically. So right now the spectrum of AI is very big. So depending of why and what, that those are my two questions. And yeah, I mean, in my own design process, I call my design workflow, since I was like smaller, since I was studying at the university, I didn't know what I was doing at that moment, because I was always very curious, a very curious person, and I was like always curious about everything. And after a while, and after like understanding myself as an architect, my process is called curiosity driven design, because everything that I do, technology related or not, is actually based on curiosity, of me being curious about something and then jumping to do something because I'm very curious for that. And I think that, yeah, for me it's like, for all of the architects, all of the students, if you're curious about something, test it. It's a trial and error process. And I think that at some point, if you like it, you will continue doing it, because maybe other people will not understand it, maybe they will be resistant to it, because I know how it is, it happens. But I think that for me, like, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible to learn. Right now, we have all the information is online. I mean, people tell me, I remember when I was in the university, no, but it's expensive, but all the workshops are like $50, and $50 when you transform it to the Peruvian coin is like by, I mean, is more like, I think like by 3.5 right now. But I don't know, the dollar just goes up and down. But the thing is that right now you don't need that. You just need connection to the internet and enter to YouTube. And there is a lot of streamers, like people talking about AI. You have, if you don't want to enter to YouTube, you have TikTok, that is like, they have a lot of people in TikTok doing AI workflows too. You have also Instagram, a lot of
What?
people in Instagram
In
talking.
TikTok, this is
Yeah,
news
there is.
for me.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the algorithm, that what do you search on TikTok, you will have outcomes of that. In
Really?
my case, I have a lot of AI people talking. So
Oh,
in
there,
and I a lot
now I
of
have a
people.
reason to have TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, there is different formats, and the I mean, I think that all the knowledge is there. At some point when I learned Grasshopper back in, it was 2012 or 2011. No, probably 2013. But at that moment, I remember the information was in English and a lot in Chinese. And for me, it was like, I learned with that information. And at that moment, I knew, I mean, my English was not the best one. And I don't know Chinese until now. But I was just looking, okay, they were like clicking one thing and using that thing. And I was like, oh, clicking the same thing and using the same thing. And I know that it's not impossible, because I know that at the moment YouTube didn't have all the videos that we have now. When I entered right now, and I search Grasshopper, there is a lot. There is so much. And I that for me, it's like, okay, the information is there. So if you have like free time, just enter and just search a video, save a video if you want to do something like that, and start researching and entering. It doesn't need to be a scary world, because we all started at, I mean, in the 0 point. We didn't knew. All the people that you see now that they know, they all started without knowing. It was just like, we want to know and we want to research and just jump in there. So yeah, I think that that's my advice.
I love that you say that. Even the specialists, they started from scratch, right? Like they start from zero. It's fantastic. It's so good. And I love the approach of being curious and staying curious, because this is what is going to make you move really forward towards like learning more and getting a better understanding on which tools are gonna be the best for your practice, right? And I also like very much the fact that with AI, although like we were very comfortable using sometimes like processes with 3 or 4 tools. It's different because you can use, like in your process, you use how many tools? Like multiple tools. And do you use all the same tools in every project? No, maybe you're not using all of them in the same projects, right? So
Yeah, no, depends on the
it's
project. Like,
depends on the project. So it's really growing this idea of becoming more flexible and adapting to what is coming, because
yeah,
it might be that we're going to be talking to the tools, like everyone is going to be talking to the tools instead of like really sitting and like
yeah, like
using
doing
the
the
mouse,
thing.
the keyboards. Yes, it's crazy, right? The
It's crazy
future,
because
we don't know.
everything is like evolving, and it's evolving so fast that I was telling you like last time, like sometimes you have like a day for like learning something new, and then just you need to apply it. So everything just goes like this. And yeah, I think that's, I mean, I don't know, I don't have like a crystal ball to see the future, but I know that it's going to be amazing because it's like it is already looking promising.
And you have in your favor, you have your unique human skill, which is creativity, right? Your unique experiences, your memory. This is something that AI can have, like a huge library, can like really go over internet, but it will never be, oh, I was in that country and I saw this, and this can be used on this specific project because of XY reason.
Yeah,
This
I mean,
is so
how
unique, and
yeah,
it's
how our
us as
brains
humans.
makes, yeah, sure, but the thing is that how our brains react and creates, it's still a mystery in a sense. That's why the AI cannot reproduce it, because we don't know. It's like, yeah, because you see something that remembers you a song, and then the song remembers you a moment, and then the moment remembers you something very specific. So yeah, it's crazy.
No, and it's good that they can't.
Yeah, no, you cannot do that. The thing is that that's the
This is
uniqueness of
us.
being human beings.
I'm so happy you were here. Thank you so much, Jenny, for joining us at the third episode of Nuvem Design. Can you please share with us if someone wants to communicate with you or learn more about your work, where they can find you, your Instagram? Can you
Yeah,
share it with us?
yeah, sure. My Instagram is JenniDL95 with a small slash, but I will send you the Instagram so you can put it there. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'll
the
put it in the
Instagram
description.
in the
Yeah.
description. And then I also have LinkedIn. Mainly, if people follow me, I answer more for Instagram, because in Instagram is where I most of my time I spend it on Instagram probably. But yeah, that's my Instagram.
Okay, I really appreciate your time and I loved our conversation. I think it was so great that you shared your workflow with us and your experience. I wish all the success for you on your journey, professional journey. I'll be watching you, and like maybe we do a second conversation very soon, okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was super fun.
It was very much fun, right?
Yeah.
And for those of you that wants to follow us, we have Instagram for NuvemTALKS, and we have Instagram for Nuvem Design, which is my practice. So go on Instagram and have a look. The podcast is also on Spotify if you don't like the screen. And that's it. Like, see you on the 4th episode. Vem com a nuvem.